Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast number 110, just one podcast away from 111. Definitely excited to be getting into today's podcast. I hope you're all having a beautiful weekend. If you're new here, welcome to the Wolfpack. It's so great to have you here with us in this new month of May, just the day after this lunar eclipse that we've been talking about for so long now. So as I mentioned, we have a lot to get into today, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we get started, if you're new here and you've yet to get access to our Discord server, just go ahead and send me a direct message on Patreon with your Discord username and last four numbers after the username. And we are doing really well with the altcoin voting system. Just remember to comment in this post with your submission of whatever altcoin you want to look at next week, and whatever ones get the most thumbs up, the most votes in the Patreon comment section are what I select for next week. Going to be going over a couple of projects today that I don't think I've reviewed for quite some time, and I made those selections very carefully on purpose because we keep seeing people want to go over Theta and Zilliqa, etc., but we already talked about it. We need to give those coins a break. We will go over them after at least 2 to 3 months going by, but we try to not repeat these coins too often because otherwise it's just, well, it's repetitive. So today we're going to be going over, of course, Bitcoin on the more macro perspective. I have a lot of decoding stuff to jump into today to kick this off. We're going to be talking a lot about the Bitcoin chart and past price action, and I have a lot of really interesting gems to share with you regarding Bitcoin specifically. Then we're going to be getting into talking about our bi-weekly close coming in tonight with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. I have a very special chart to show you with XRP that I believe could be eye-opening and perhaps helpful at determining what the next big move is for XRP and when to expect it. And then we'll be getting into Moon River, Origin Trail, Injective, Tezos, or Tezos, Bezos, just kidding. And then perhaps Shiba Inu, with really just some words of wisdom on meme coins and that whole asset class, I guess you can call it, because it's become a conversation all over again due to some recent, well, you guys are probably all aware. So we're going to be getting into that much later in the episode, but for now, let's just kick things off talking about some dates and stuff to consider regarding numerology and gematria. So we're going to kick this whole thing off considering the current date that Bitcoin has recently topped out in the microcycle. So the microcycle highs that happened on April 14th, trading into $31,000, which is something I actually shared would happen right at that time frame. So it was really great to see that come to fruition. And then the next big thing that I shared with you guys was 3 different Bitcoin scenarios to anticipate after we topped out at this 31K and had this substantial pullback. And that was scenario number 1, which was a bull trap retesting 30K, getting rejected. And then to consider scenario 2 and scenario 3, either scenario 2 being a new closure low below $27,000, which we have yet to get, or the bullish opportunity, which would be Bitcoin closing above $30,600, and then that would be where we would anticipate continuation to the next leg up, somewhere around 33,000 initially. So we're coiling up in this area, and I have a fib pulled, just a standard Fibonacci retracement from this swing high to this swing low. And you can see we've been trading multiple days into this golden pocket territory, rejected several times, somewhat of lower highs, but still holding higher lows. And this is becoming a bull pennant. So I'm not going to be jumping into the analysis this early, but I just want to talk about the significance of April 14th being our current microcycle top, and this is where the whole decode is going to unfold for the rest of the day. But since we're at this crucial point right now in the video where we're seemingly getting some bearish energy off of this past backtest on the night of the lunar eclipse, which was yesterday, just consider the volatility is going to be potentially pretty dramatic over the next 48 hours, even during this podcast as I film it. So try your best to pay attention to the code and not get too carried away in looking at the swings of price. We've already discussed how I'm anticipating this to go a little bit more similarly to the 2016 cycle and less like the 2019 automatic rally cycle. And thus far, it's looking pretty solid until Bitcoin starts closing below 25,000. We're pretty much on track for automatic rally the same way we were back in 2016 and 2019, with the finality of that automatic rally being in June. And we've talked about this so many times now. So again, if you're new here, please rewatch, or if you've never watched the World Reserve Decoded, it was the last big decode I released, definitely go watch that. It's going to fill you in on everything you need to know about the month of June. So now that we have that out of the way, I find it very interesting how, based off of this day of April 14th, going 33 days out, it brings you to May 17th. And why that's significant is because May 17th is your 137th day of the year. 137 is the 33rd prime number. So measuring 33 days later into the 137th day, the 33rd prime, that's your 233 connections in one single date. And I thought that was pretty interesting because this is a date that I've talked about so many times, but specifically in my Sell in May and Go Away Decoded, I put emphasis on May 17th through May 22nd. And I even made a tweet a while ago. If you follow me on Twitter, it's at WatersAbove, kind of spelt a little bit unique. Actually, by the way, I'm really glad something must have happened recently where a lot of people started unsubscribing or unfollowing the scam account. The scammer account was called like WatersAbove Crypto YT, and it had like 8,000 followers at one point, and now it's down to like 3,000. I don't know something must have happened because I had you guys go report that account. I mean, definitely still go report that account if you haven't yet. We need to get these scammers away. I mean, I have no control over them making the accounts, but as this account grows and I'm verified, it does help. But anyways, getting back to May 17th, I forgot when I made this tweet. It was probably back in March at some point. Wow, it was a while ago. So I don't have too many of these tweets. I'm not a big Twitter person, but I'm trying to get into it, perhaps to reach out to a broader audience. But you can see right here, back on March 13th, I wrote the May 17th date. And I think it's pretty interesting how that date has been sort of intuitive for me. It's been calling my name a lot. I even wrote this yesterday, kind of just recapping what I'm talking about right now. This idea of 33 days after our current microcycle top that we're at the 137th day, this May 17th day just keeps coming up over and over. And the more connections I find, it really solidifies the importance of that day. And that's about 10 days from right now. So now I'm thinking, because of all these 33 connections, and since Bitcoin has already hit 31,000, perhaps this is the day that Bitcoin breaks 33,000 and goes on its last leg up to finish this automatic rally phase, which I could anticipate being into the $40,000 territory. And let me just show you, coming back to this chart right here, I'm going to turn off as much of this noise as possible. I'm going to actually delete this fib, and we're just going to draw this bull pennant concept. Now, this isn't going to look pretty because we're looking at a crypto. The idea here is that when we're looking at these super volatile assets, it's never going to look as clean. But I think this is fair. Coming off of about right here, that's very fair. On the 8-hour closes, you can see closures, rejections. This was a little bit of a kickback, which is normal when you break pattern, seeming like you're going to have a breakout, but you can't hold the prior resistance as a support. So we can't confirm this as a official breakout until we get out of the pattern. And technically you want to be back testing it, confirming a bounce. And whenever you can cross above these highs right there, that would be when you start to anticipate Bitcoin moving up from the measured move of this pattern, which you could be pretty conservative and take it off of right about here. And that would be putting you, if I got really close to the apex of this pattern, it brings you around 32,000. So just something to consider here. If you wanted to really open this up, you have something like this. I mean, I'm not really huge into these trend lines, but have fun with them if you will. For me, I'm more of a Wyckoff analyst, and I feel like that helps me a lot. And whenever I do trend lines, it's because I have hundreds of days of data. I like to look at trend lines when I have at least 3 months, 4 months worth of chart history that is brushing against those trend lines. One great example would be right here. So this is a trend line I like. If you want to know a waters above trend line that I find to have a lot of utility, it would be something like this. You have your prior all-time high, a bull trap rejection, followed by a larger sell-off. Then you have here a break, retest, another retest there on March 10th. It was a very important date. Silicon Valley failed and Bitcoin came down into this bear trap around 19,000, breaking below 20K, followed by this spring up. And this break right here really solidified this trend line as a support. What was once resistance back here, it's now support. This is what I would do with the trend line. When you start getting into just a couple of hours, days of data, it's not as helpful. But needless to say, there is a pretty clear there's a pretty clear resistance we're getting here, and you saw it was even cleaner on those 8-hour candles because we're looking at such a small amount of data. And this is a bullish break into the pattern with a higher low structure and a higher high structure. Therefore, this bullish pennant should be, or this pennant should be considered bullish. And I guess technically you'd want to be taking off of this crown top right there as your measured move on a linear scale, not a log. And this is where we really start getting into the chart lesson here to help you guys out. And you'd want to also consider that you'd want about 75% to the apex. And I believe we're really damn close to that. Like if I had to be fair, it would be coming in around one of these days to start off this measurement. And then you want to go to that apex, 26 days, multiplied by 75%. And you're going to end up with 20 days. So 20 days off the same amount. And look, it was that day of the break of the false kickback is what I call it. The kickback day. If you remember on that 8-hour chart, we had this set up like this. Off of the 8-hour closures. And this was the moment where we kicked back right there. Boom. And broke back into the pattern, back tested the prior support. So anyways, looking at this in any iteration, I like to do my measured moves in linear scale always, and this brings us to about, again, $32,500. If I was to pull a long-term fib from the current all-time high to the swing low, I would guarantee you that this takes you to somewhere around the 0.5 fib. Bada bing, bada boom. So here we have the all-time high, here we have the swing low in the current cycle, and you see that white line hitting you perfectly into the 0.5 fib. So this is really a gorgeous, and simple way of analyzing this. The problem is that Bitcoin doesn't always follow patterns. Bitcoin tends to do some really chaotic stuff, and since we move through eclipses, this is kind of the time where you anticipate that type of randomness, if you will. Now, I really like this setup. I think that it was good for Bitcoin to stall out a little bit and come back, test this 382 with a higher low structure. Getting through this full moon last night and holding this 28K level is really nice. Again, we'll be getting more into the macro analysis in a moment, but I'm just going to leave this concept up here and get back into the dates. So as I said, this is kind of the date where I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Bitcoin break that 33K territory. We have some TA to back that up. Again, as we're in an uptrend, moving with higher lows structure, higher high structure, this is really where you anticipate more of a bullish breakout. And actually, one more thing to say to back this up for any people that are overly bearish right now is we have yet to really see a huge spike up in something like RSI on the daily. I mean, we saw it get pretty dramatic here back in January, but not nearly as wild as it could get like on a weekly chart. If I was to show you the Bitcoin index, you'll get an idea how you see right here we were getting into about 80 when we hit this automatic rally. Here on this automatic rally, we hit about 88. And we haven't really seen 80 yet on the weekly RSI, all the way back until we were in the first phase of the bull run, the Bitcoin bull run to 60,000. But we've stalled out on 70 right into overbought territory back in November, which was the all-time high. And then here recently again, we haven't really made it into that 80 territory. And we know during automatic rallies, Bitcoin does like to start getting slightly overbought. And we have the data in the past to prove it. So you could throw that up on your charts if you like. You could always mark off these levels to give yourself something to consider on the more macro timeframes. So I hope this helps people see why there is a high possibility of Bitcoin going up into about 40,000. There's so many things. I mean, you have the fibs from the last cycle, all iterations hitting into the 786. 786. Here our 786 is 50,000. So just getting into 40,000 would be the lower end of the golden pocket. So this is very conservative stuff, guys. Like, this is not ultra, like, out of the cards bullish. This is pretty basic. And if Bitcoin was to do this move up to 40K, up to 44 into this golden pocket territory, that's probably when we would start to anticipate that 80 RSI. Just wanted to bring that up for people because this is one of those times where I know it's really rough for those who are new to TA, and I'm doing my part to be a leader and just simplify as much as I can for you all, not make it too complicated. But again, if you want to learn more about technical analysis, all of my methodologies and strategies, my crypto mastermind course will take you from complete beginner to intermediate. And for most people, if you really study the course and practice it day by day, doing technical analysis warm-ups, actually taking it slow, taking notes, you can become advanced just by taking that crypto mastermind course. So that is available for the biggest discount for you guys, Patreon supporters. It's in the comment below or in the post below. And I appreciate all of your support if you end up investing in that course. So just wanted to share this esoteric connection and add a little bit more data to it. I also found something that is really interesting, which connects to April 14th this year, and a decode I already shared with everyone over a month ago, and it was about the number 14, and how April 14th, again, 14th day of this month, and then it being the 104th day in the rules of numerology, you remove the 0, you get back to the number 14. And when I noticed that was odd about this, and it's a number that I don't talk about often, but it was this 16 and 61 date numerology. So we're going to be breaking this down more as we go along, but just do your best to keep up with me on this. It's very esoteric, kind of weird, but these are the things that I look for to give me an edge on determining what's to happen on specific dates and to be able to determine, peaks and valleys in the market. So I just wanted to look at how we topped out on this day of April 14th thus far at 31,000, and we have a 61 and 16 date numerology, but keep in the back of your mind this number 14 connection. And if we go and find date numerologies that match the 61 and 16, we have June 12th as one of those key dates, as well as May 13th is another one. And May 13th is just around the corner. It's next weekend. And you can see 6116 date numerologies matching. And look at this. This will be 4 weeks and 1 day after the 14th day of this alleged fourth month and the 104 day of the year. So we're getting multiple 14s, 41s, as above, so below. 6116 as above, so below. Same on this date as well. Now, I'm starting to look for more of these connections now because I feel like it could be very helpful. If we go back to that June 12th date that I was just talking about moments ago, again, same date numerology, 6116. If we go back 2 days earlier, you're going to see that this is interesting how it is the 161st day. That is the palindrome of the number 16, forwards and backwards. And in the Gregorian system, naturally, this will be 6-1 or 1-6 date being June 10th. So you have the 1-6, the 161, the 1-6, and the 6-1 over and over again. You even have this 2-6-1 down here, but that's less important. Just also consider how we keep talking about the number 14. We have 14. 104 is 14. And this being a 14 standard date numerology. So isn't it interesting how these numbers keep like all overlapping, and it's happening in these in this sequence? It's something I caught on to as I was preparing this decode, and I wanted to add it in to see if we're getting any rhyme and reason to why potentially we could be having some big moves in the market to come. So remember, the solar eclipse on April 20th that started the solar cycle happened during the 16th week of the year. And you can see that right here. Week 16, April 17th through 23rd. Of course, the solar eclipse was on the 20th. So now I'm like, whoa, okay, so the number 16 is definitely important this year. And I started to make the obvious connections as to why. And let's take it slow. Again, I want to show you guys how this all kind of comes full circle. But Bitcoin during the... One moment. Let's talk about the current low for Bitcoin during the bear cycle, which was on November 21st. It was right here on this day. I'm going to turn all this off, make this look nice and clean. Here we go. So November 21st. This was the current low of the bear cycle thus far, and it connects to this date of June 10th. So we're going to type in 11/21, 2022. And it connects to this date of June 10th by 201 days. And we have the 21 day in this year. Definitely significant. We have an 11 standard date numerology, which is 2 1s. Again, 2 1. And we can see that this leads into a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn. Again, Saturn being your 21 in Gematria and multiple ciphers. So I was thinking about how this all kind of comes back to this code of the 21s. We saw how it's become popular now just overnight, this whole Grim Reaper being seen at the King's coronation. I don't know if that was leaked or if that was edited with some sort of effect afterwards. You know how easy it is to put these effects in later. Again, I don't really care. I don't really know, but it's just funny how this Grim Reaper thing was tied to this coronation because it was on a Saturday, May 6th, which was yesterday, is a day of Saturn. Saturn is the Grim Reaper. It is death personified as the Grim Reaper. And we're getting all these 21s tied to this June 10th date on a Saturn day. Again, 201 days since the current low in the cycle for Bitcoin. And I believe, this was the first time that Bitcoin traded below 16,000 really. This time frame of November 9th on that eclipse over to that 21st date. So we're seeing these number 16s pop up as well. I was just talking about that number 16 because this June 10th date is the 6-1 date. It is the 161 date. So we're connecting the price lows of this cycle up to today. It's pretty fascinating stuff. And I believe that'll be a full 6 months later. Yes, it will be. So there you go. So that's 6 months. Now, let's keep it moving. I don't want to make it too wacky and weird today, but I think this kind of stuff helps people because you can utilize some of these tools, some of these, strategies for your own decodes. If you're trying to decode sports, you're trying to decode specific events, geopolitical things, whatever. Like, this is how I do it. And I'm revealing it all. So please take notes and apply these little tricks because that's what's going to set you apart as a decoder from most. So this number 16 and 61, let's go back to the Bitcoin all-time high, which was November 9th of 2021. And what's amazing about this November 9th date leading into November 10th, that was the official all-time high where Bitcoin hit 69,000, but it was trading from this day of November 9th into November 10th. I believe it was still November 9th in the in Eastern time zone when it hit the all-time high. It happened overnight before midnight officially. But you know that the Bitcoin daily close or the crypto market daily close is between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time. depending on daylight savings. And we need to pay attention to that because I've been telling people that the entire timing of the global market system, whether you're in Tokyo or you're in Japan, Sydney, Australia, it doesn't matter. It is Eastern Standard Time Zone because of the New York Stock Exchange and Washington, D.C. They run the money when it comes to our opportunity as retail to play with money. Then the people who run the money for the elite level is in the city of London. You don't get to play with that. So the time zone that matters for you as crypto, investing in stocks, whatever, is Eastern Standard Time. That's the time you want to decode off of. Of course, you could get more esoteric if you want to think of the real, Silicon Valley. That would be Tel Aviv or Israel. You could look at the Vatican time zone, which is I would assume it's almost identical to the one in Switzerland. Play around with that kind of stuff because these are other centers where financial control and the technocratic world order and transhumanism and all this stuff is kind of being laid out in the background invisibly. But when it comes to you decoding this market, just to keep it super simple for you all, use Eastern Standard Time. Now, getting back to all of this, we have this 11/9 date and that also having your 61 and 16 date numerologies, just like we had April 14th of this year being that 61 and 16 date numerology, just like I was showing you moments ago how this upcoming June 12th has the 61 and 16 date numerology. Could this be some sort of code that's revealing itself? For sure. But now let's analyze November 9th of 2021 and why this date is so special. It's because 6 plus 1 is 7, 1 plus 6 obviously 7, 3 plus 1 plus 3 equals 7, and 5 plus 2 equals 7. So the day of the year reduced is 7. The days left in the year reduced is 7. And then you have the date numerology itself naturally reducing down to 7. This is all the sevens. It's also pretty fascinating how this will be 1 year and 7 months apart from this day, and 17 or 17 is the 7th prime number. Again, it's like you can't escape this number 7 in this code. So I just want you guys to consider June 12th is very interesting in all of this. And remember, we have whenever we have these sevens connection, it comes back to the jackpot number, the 777. 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21. We were in the year of 2021, which was the year of the Shemitah. And that was the year of Saturn 21, as you can see. So speaking of 2021, let's go back to 2021 where Bitcoin initially topped out on April 14th, which was right here. And this was around the time frame where we watched the finality of what was called alt season. And on this date right here of May 25th and May 26th, we had a lunar eclipse, which started the lunar cycle. So we were in a solar cycle all throughout this moment here, where Bitcoin started or finished off the automatic rally through here. And you could essentially see that in the latter half, after the Bitcoin halving event, Bitcoin ripped and then it keeled over and the alt season was ended. Essentially, the big energy from the crypto market started to slowly get pulled away at the start of this eclipse. Days leading into it, actually. So I've been having a little fun playing with the eclipse date and measuring off of the start of solar and lunar cycles. It's been really interesting for me. And if I take off of the 26th date and I go backwards to the prior all-time high, it was 42 days. So let's have a little fun and go to the start of our solar cycle here, which started on the 20th of April and go over 42 days. And that's going to bring you to June 1st, the 1st of June. Now, let's measure off of last night's lunar eclipse on May 6th over 42 days, and this brings you to June 17th. Now, which is really interesting because back in 2016, which is the automatic rally that I've been comparing us to more than the 2019 iteration, well, back in 2016, the Bitcoin automatic rally topped out on June 17th. So, I think that's really fascinating, the fact that it's coming up with these similar dates and similar measurements off of the eclipses. And remember, back in 2016, Bitcoin actually rallied after the eclipses. So the eclipses happened here, right where I'm circling my cursor. We had the lunar and solar eclipse to start off the solar phase, and then this was the automatic rally finishing off. What was beautiful about this cycle was the uptrend. It just continued over and over to make higher highs, higher lows, with 30 to 40% corrections along the whole way, backtesting the weekly 21 exponential moving average. It was like the easiest bull run of all time if you knew basic TA, and then this bull run was insane to be able to map out what was to come next. It was just very, very difficult. So anyone who made it through this cycle, congratulations if you profited off of it nicely, because it was definitely difficult to navigate. Looking back at this cycle, it was so much smoother, so much easier, but also way more dramatic. Lot more volatility, and it would have been, odd for people to have to experience 50% pullbacks here and there, 40% pullbacks here and there. Anyway, I just wanted to point out how 42 days off of the start of that lunar cycle going backwards was hitting at that all-time high, and how perhaps we can be utilizing that data moving forward to determine the next move up for Bitcoin. So now if you measure off of 2021 September 7th, which is this pivot date right here, and you go up to the top of November 10th, that's 64 days. The reason this was really important is because this peak right here might actually be very similar to this peak right here. I'm just thinking of that because of the timing of everything. So if we were to pull 64 days off of our current peak, that would bring us to June 17th. So again, we've hit June 17th twice in two separate ways of measuring. Pretty weird. Now, it's been interesting to measure off of these lunar and solar cycles to big pivots in the markets, such as this example of May 26th over here into the all-time high, which is right over here. And that brings you to about 168 days. So now I was having fun with this, and I was measuring backwards off of this solar eclipse that we just had, 168 days. And look at where this brings us. It actually starts bringing us right into this dip time frame. So if we go off of yesterday, the lunar eclipse, and go 168 days out, look at this area. It brings you within 48 hours of the current low in the cycle. So it's like this as above, so below moment. We have from the start of the lunar phase up 168 days, you hit an all-time high. And then at the start of the solar phase, going backwards 168 days, you get your all-time low in the current cycle. I'm not saying that there's anything specifically special about this 168, but it could just be that we're mimicking off of these. I shouldn't say mimicking, but it's like a mirroring, very alchemical how it's doing this in both directions. So I really think we're onto something here. It is, of course, a pretty interesting data point. It's nothing to bet the farm on, but it's fascinating stuff. So, and all these connections to June, since I made that World Reserve Decoded, have started to make a lot more sense to me now, especially when I'm finding these things. Now, the last thing to mention regarding June is revisiting that key date of March 10th, where Silicon Valley Bank failed, and it connecting to June 14th right here, and this 3/10 date of this year. And you could see it's 96 days away from the 69th day of the year. And because we just started this solar cycle, eclipse cycle, the word eclipse has that 69 in it. Definitely an interesting thing how this aligns with the numbers of June. Something else to keep in mind. And remember how we brought up the numbers 61 and 16 several times during today's decode? Well, if you connect our current microcycle top on April 14th of 2023, and then go 61 days later, you're going to see where this brings us. It's right there to June 14th. That's 61. In the 61 date numerology, 16 mirrored, 61 days away, June 14th. Fascinating. And if you want to go esoteric here, this exoteric is 144 date, and esoterically, this is your 144 date, because March would be your first month, April is your second, May is your third, June is your fourth month in the system. So written internationally, this would also be your 144 date. And the fact that they're connected by these 61s all again, is really blowing my mind. This is a really interesting find. So June 14th is also a Wednesday, and for some reason that has been the day of the week for several of our tops, and I'll show you some examples right now. So we have November 10th, current all-time high. If you look right here, when I scroll over it, you're going to see that November 10th, the current all-time high for Bitcoin was a Wednesday. Now, if you go back to the automatic rally of 2019, you can see right here on June 26th of 2019, the day we peaked out, was a Wednesday. Then you come up again for a bull trap here on July 10th. That was a Wednesday. Now you have the February 12th, 2020 highs, which were right here, right before the C19 crash. That was a Wednesday. That was your peak high opportunity to de-risk before one of the most brutal crashes in stock market history, especially for Bitcoin, because if you measure just off of this peak to that peak, it was 60+%, and it happened in short order. So again, another Wednesday connection. Let's keep going. October 20th, 2021 is another example. So let's look right here at this peak. This was officially the peak, the day that we broke the prior all-time high from April 14th of 2021. That was October 20th of 2021, which was a Wednesday. So again, not 100% of the time, but it seems that Bitcoin really likes Wednesday, and Wednesday is miércoles. Miércoles is Mercury. So Mercury, of course, has this 23 in Chaldean. Bitcoin has the 23. And Chaldean, this is pretty tied together. Of course, Mercury is the god of fiat money, of money created out of thin air, which is exactly what blockchain is. So, of course, Bitcoin's going to have that mercurial vibe to it regardless. Even the Bitcoin symbol has that caduceus. So, remember from my last couple of podcasts, I've discussed in the 2016 automatic rally that Bitcoin topped out 8 days after the June new moon. And in 2019, Bitcoin topped out 6 days before the new moon. And this year, that window of dates for 2023, if I go back to both of those cycles and compare it to this year, it would be sometime between June 12th and June 26th. So in today's podcast, I exposed some really deep connections for the month of June, but since we're just in the beginning of May and the lunar eclipse was yesterday, let's get into the charts to see how this first week of May has been since our very important monthly close of April, which I reviewed in last week's podcast. But now we have so many date connections to consider moving into the month of June and getting us through May. And if we get closer to that May 17th date and we start seeing Bitcoin break out, especially to that 33K by May 17th, that would be insanity. And also look at how May 17th is a Wednesday. So let's get into some of the data in the charts. First, let's go to the biweekly, because we have a biweekly close coming in. And you can see right here that the current biweekly closure high in the structure comes in on the 27th of March at $28,336. Right now we're planting potentially a new high in the structure, which would be a continuation candle. Even though we have a wick that comes a little higher than this bi-weekly wick, I don't really care. For me, candle closures are a lot more important, especially when we're looking at bi-weekly candles or monthly candles or bi-monthly, etc. So ideally, closing above 28,500 would be an expectation for continuation to the upside. Now, during the month of May of 2019, back here, we have some interesting structure. Let me bring up these moving averages, and you're going to see this 55 simple moving average has yet to be touched on this automatic rally. Back here, In this iteration, we officially broke over this white moving average, the 55 simple, in the month of May. Right there on May 13th. Now we're getting close. We're 1 week away from essentially that event. So will this be the week coming up or the next 2 weeks that we break above that 55 simple and peak out? Well, we'll see, but that's how it went in the last cycle. And the fact that the 55 simple right now is trading right around 34,000 tells me a lot because of the prior analysis that I shared with that bull pennant that brings you up to about 32. You know, the difference between 32 and 34 could happen in a single trading day. That's nothing for Bitcoin. And from where we're trading now up to the 55 simple moving average is only about 20%. This bi-weekly candle we got right here was a 25% candle, and the one right here was 25%. So we know Bitcoin can be pulling off 25% bi-weekly candles in this sort of energy we're in now. Wow, this could turn out to be a very clean cup and handle over the next 5 months. Like, we're really bowling out right now, and it looks clean to me. Wow, super interesting. Let me see if I pull off of here to the bull trap. It's 224 days. And if I go off of here, 224 days, where does that bring us? Oh, that's pretty late. That'd be like sometime in August. If I went off of here, 224 days, it brings you to June 19th. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm just wondering, because this is a very clean bull formation. It's looking, again, very similar back here if I was to turn this all off. I know that there was these extreme wicks, but ultimately you could see kind of this structure. I would love for us to have a clean bull run like we did in 2017. That was so nice. I don't know if we'll keep doing that in the future, because this one was very choppy, and with this double top with no real exaggerated blow off top for Bitcoin, that's what made it very hard to navigate. It wasn't what we normally expect. And that's good. I mean, that's great. We want things to change. If it becomes too predictable, then it won't be effective anymore. And the ones who control the market maker, will have to come up with new ways to, finesse everyone. But anyways, getting back to this, I think this is pretty interesting analysis. The fact that we also do have a wolf cross coming in that has determined continuation to the upside also. It doesn't necessarily mean we're just going to break into price discovery right away, though. It takes time. You can see off of this wolf cross till the next downside wolf cross took 1,000 days. And from this wolf cross here to the next wolf cross took about 1,000 days. So from this one up till the next obvious selling climax, it brings you into about April, May of 2025. That's beautiful, because I'm anticipating the next bull cycle peak to be probably December through February of 2024 into 2025, which is just a year away. Now, I wanted to talk about this bi-weekly close because it gives you a level to consider in the more macro sense. And we have that 55 simple on the upside to consider regarding the next leg up and area that we typically break through during the automatic rally phase. Now, just let's quickly review the 3 key scenarios that we talked about with Bitcoin. We had the bull trap concept where Bitcoin comes up into about 30K and gets rejected. You can see we got rejected here on April 26th at exactly 30,000. You could see here a couple days later on April 30th, we got rejected right there off of 30,000. Same story. And then pulling back and breaking below the 26,000 range would put you into scenario number 2, which would be I would call it a bear trap, because I think even if Bitcoin was to pull back to 25K and bounce from there, that would be normal. It's done that so many times. And especially after you've had rallies, that's kind of what you anticipate. Shake out all the leverage longs, liquidate them, and then go the other direction. It's kind of an evil thing that the market maker does, but it is what it is. And any sophisticated traders out there kind of anticipate that we normally see extreme fear in the market before we bounce. And I don't think we have that right now. Because of all this stuff going on with Pepe or whatever, it's bringing some excitement back to the market. And that's something I'm going to talk about later when we get into that words of wisdom about meme coins. So the third scenario would be a break above 30,600. We haven't seen that yet either. Just keep that in mind. And now we're going to go to the weekly analysis. This is looking incredible. So we had a wolf cross down here. We have the 8 above the 55. We have the 8 now trading above both 200 moving averages on the weekly. Weekly has been holding the 8 simple moving average. Closing tonight, holding that 8 simple would be very, very good. And now we have our EMAs, which are in bullish posture. We have the 13 above the 21 above the 34. And this is exactly what you like to see before rallies. So going back here, I want you to look at how this red moving average is above the blue. Just like right here, we have the red above the blue. But then on this cross that we got, look at that, May is when the cross came in 2019, which for us, it came in right here, about April. We saw that lead to a rally. And we essentially held that structure until we had, we coiled together for most of all of this back in 2019 as well. Even into this C19 crash, we only spent a couple weeks below this band, less than 2 months. That's nothing when you're looking at this much years of data. So this is really important to look at how when this goes into bullish posture is typically when we anticipate a little bit of upside action. And when you start to break below the 34 exponential moving average is when you anticipate bigger corrections. So right now, the 34 exponential sitting at 24,700 on tonight's weekly close, it will pop up to about 25K. That's just what I talked about before, that if Bitcoin can hold 25K, even if it was to peel over right now, I would not get bearish. But if it starts to close below that 25K level on weekly closes bi-weekly, then yeah, sound the alarms because there could be a bigger shakeout incoming. But for now, everything's looking pretty much primed up. Now, let's look at the daily, and you could see the daily is actually in a bullish posture as well. With the EMAs, we have the 13 above the 21, above the 34. Let's look at our simple moving average. We have the 8 sitting on top, pretty much coiling together. We have the 55 sloping to the upside nicely. No real back tests to the 55 simple, and both 200s are in upslope. It's great. You see they are sloping down here as we're in a downtrend, and now they are sloping up. Very positive. We have the RSI and the daily sitting about 51. MACD kind of just dancing, swiveling together. The weekly, we're still looking, we're in positive territory, MACD. Bullish, we're at 60 on the weekly RSI. We're going to maintain that on this weekly close. Closing above all these key moving averages. Yeah, so I would really like today to close above 29,000. 29,000 with a weekly close would be great. If for whatever reason we could get bought up to 30,500, that would be miraculous. But with CME opening later, that's possible. So we have Chicago Mercantile Exchange opening later. We have precious metals, Dow, and the Dow Jones will be opening up ahead of time of the indices into Monday's open. So yeah, having CME open could definitely kick some extra juice into the market. You know how this goes. So again, just keep in mind the 30,600 level on the upside. Now let's get into Ethereum. Let's go to the biweekly. Okay, so here we are looking at the biweekly on Ethereum. We're about to close that today with a green candle potentially. So as long as we're closing around 1900, perfectly fine. Good. Oh, and what I would really like to see is a close above this August candle. So that high, let me see, the closure was 1,935. If we can get above 1,940, that would look pretty good on a biweekly close because that would be solidifying a new closure high in the micro. And then we have thin air till 2,400, but I don't want to get there just yet. I just want to look at this with you guys. And again, we're very limited on data here because ETH only has chart history going back to 2017. But look at this white moving average. Let me turn off these EMAs, make this look a little cleaner for you guys. So you can see right here, prior bull run all-time high. This is your current bull run all-time high. This is your selling climax and your automatic rally coming in right below the 55 simple moving average on the biweekly chart. Well, we have very similar thing going on where we're kissing the 55 simple, and I would like to see a similar candle structure where we get right below it and close red. On this candle closure we got on this bi-weekly of April 10th, we closed green. And we're about to close another green candle very soon, unless for whatever reason we get sold off today below 1860. But needless to say, if we were to pump up right into the lower part of the 55 simple, that would bring us right to about $2,300. So let's anticipate the code a little bit. If ETH was to hit $2,300, it would be absolutely insane, being that we're in the year of 2023, in the Hebrew year of 5,783, 5783 adds up to 23. And we're getting close to the 23rd week of this year. And that 23rd week is between June 5th and June 11th. Now, what's wild about the 23rd week of the year is if you go to June 11th, it is the day leaving 203 days in the year. So we have the 23 Gregorian year in the 5783 Hebrew year, which adds to 23, in the 23rd week of the year on the date that adds up to 203 days left in the year. That's 4 different 23 connections with a anticipated ETH price of 2,300. It would be absolutely wild if Ethereum could do that. Would I be surprised? No. At this point, that's exactly how this market works. But if it was to get to 2,300, it would also be technically similar to the automatic rally back of 2019, right? So one other thing I want you guys to consider as for downside targets is this 8 simple moving average. If we start to close bi-weekly candles below the 8 simple moving average, that's when I would anticipate the finality of the automatic rally for Ethereum. Very interesting TA data point to share with you guys, but I would love if you wrote that down and save that. It could be very crucial for the overall energy of the altcoin market, because if ETH peels back, every other altcoin will as well. That's just, ETH is Ether. ETH runs the alt market. Bitcoin runs the crypto market, but when it comes to the alts, when ETH pulls back and has that energy, it will do whatever it needs to do to the other altcoins. And ultimately, ETH is much more sophisticated looking chart. It's been holding up really well, had way less of a correction in the prior cycle. It's maturing over time. It's really nice. Now, again, I'm not a pro Ethereum guy. I'm not like a maxi of any sort. You guys know me. I am not picking teams here. I'm a technical analyst, professional trader, and decoder, and I look at value and to try to preserve my wealth in the process. And it doesn't matter how much money you make. It matters how much money you keep. And an ETH is a much safer play when you're looking to keep your money long-term than all this shitcoin shiny object nonsense that just pumps up a bunch but then loses 99% of its value. So, just make sure when you're hearing me say certain things that you're aware I'm very conservative about this and I look at this market holistically without picking any cults in the process. So I would love to get ETH up to that 2,200, 2,300 range, and that would probably be where I personally de-risk my final amounts. And I talked about $2,000 last week. We did make it up to right about $2,000 this week. I think that Bitcoin has a little bit more juice to go, so I'm not going to get super greedy, but ultimately the amount of Ethereum that I got back here was not enough to the point where it would bother me if ETH didn't go much higher. And I'm not going to get greedy, and I don't want you guys getting greedy either, so don't copy me. Don't follow what I'm doing. I'm just the one teaching the TA and being transparent. But I got into ETH at $400. My average in ETH is still below probably $700. So it doesn't matter to me where ETH goes anymore. I've already made all my money that I needed to make, and I know everyone's in a different situation. There's some people that got ETH back when it was under $100, and that's amazing. That's 3 times, 4 times better than my entry. So I salute you. But I just remember that we're all in different places with different time horizons, with different outlooks on things and different investment theses. And I'm, again, teaching the TA, teaching the decoding skills, and you could apply that TA and decoding to what interests you. I don't want this to be about copying. It's never been about copying, just the words of wisdom on market philosophy and trading strategy. So I just wanted to tell you that if we do follow similar iteration on ETH, getting rejected slightly below that 55 simple, you can anticipate the 236 is incoming after closures below the 8 simple moving average. So in plain English, if we start to close below this yellow moving average, anticipate a test of 1,300 ETH and even lower. Probably about 1,000 flat is in the cards in the future. And there's even a possibility for Ethereum to break lower into a spring in Wyckoff in the end of the year, in September, October. That'd be really interesting, but the 702 of the prior fractal is something that does like to get back tested when you have an asset that started to mature and has this many years of data. It wouldn't be weird to me if we traded into the prior golden pocket in the future. And I'll touch on that when that time comes, because right now, Ethereum traded to $2,000 yesterday, and I don't want us caring about $700 ETH right now. And I'm not bearish on ETH long term. I just think that there are incoming opportunities, so don't feel like you were left out. All right, let's go to XRP. As I said, I have a very interesting chart to share with you all, and it has to do with this 2-day analysis. And I was going to make a post on Twitter about this for everyone in the XRP community. But of course, you guys as supporters, I like to get you guys all the information in advance, try to take care of you all first. And this analysis is super interesting. It's the 55 and the 200 simple moving average. I believe I did make a post about this already in the Discord, but here I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper. And you'll see the post I make in the future on Twitter, which will just be the chart mapped out with some description. But this cross right here is very crucial for XRP. And the last time we had the 55 simple cross above the 200 simple on the 2-day chart goes all the way back to here, September of 2020, which was the start of the Shemitah. This was literally the start of the Shemitah. And it ended right here. Pretty much the top of the bull trap for 2021. It's pretty wild, man. Oh no, sorry. I'm excuse me. That's wrong. I apologize. We are speaking ahead of ourselves here. That was inaccurate. What I meant to say is this was the start of the Shemitah. And I think it's funny how going back to here 1 year before the Shemitah was the cross. That's what I should have said. Excuse me. Don't want to confuse anyone. But the Shemitah did effectively start on September 7th, Rosh Hashanah of 2021, and it ended here in September 26th of 2022. And yep, exactly 1 year before the Shemitah is when we had this cross. And now here we are. And this is what really I wanted to get to, was the structure. Now just pay attention to the structure, how from here back in April 2020, we went down in this fashion. And right here, we did the same thing, kind of swooping down, and then came up for this crown top distribution right here, another Bart Simpson head. And then we had the cross. And the fact that this came in almost 1,000 days ago shows me that it's very significant. And the last time this crossed to the downside was right over here, where the 55 went below the 200 simple. And this led to an even deeper correction for ETH. So I thought this cross could be something to talk about, something to share with you guys. And I see this could be a potential setup for the next move up for XRP. Now, you're well aware that this was the Flare token distribution date, cutoff date event. And then we had right here, this big sell-off was the SEC case against Ripple kicking in, the lawsuit starting, led to a huge sell-off. I actually want to remind people who are new here, it's really funny that I've had, ever since I started throwing some shots at the XRP army, and it's not because I don't like them, it's just because I need to, like, it's part of my purpose to wake these people up, you know, to seeing clearly. And I know that, you know, Bearable Bull, shout out to him, and I'm grateful for him having me on his show, because he's become even open-minded to my perspective whilst I've been very spicy against the XRP army and the XRP community. Again, it's not because I don't like people. It's not because I'm trying to start shit. It's because I'm trying to get people to see the truth here. And hopefully they can make money in the process once they start to see through that truth. Now, what I was kind of getting into was this moment right here. I've had a lot of people that they're like, oh, Waters must not have a lot of XRP, or he's against the XRP army, or like this, that, and the third. But I would love for anyone who has my crypto mastermind, or the people that are like, oh, he wasn't buying XRP back when it was 20 cents or 17. Okay. Like, everyone go back into that cryptocurrency mastermind. The day of the SEC lawsuit, I was making one of the lessons in that course, telling people how excited I was to be buying that dip and how chill I was about it all because I knew that it would move up. And then I created my YouTube channel around here in March of 2021, and I talked about it publicly, how we would see a $1 XRP. So I talked about buying it below 20 cents, and I also publicly talked about selling it above $1.50. Now, people like Bearable Bull they've become quite aware of that. I am a trader of this coin. I'm not part of any cult. And all I was trying to do, the whole process of this, is to, again, help people. So now when I find these little nuggets here, as I'm sharing with you today, it's providing more value to the upside thesis underway. And I've talked about the 83-cent level being a key level for me and how $1 is even possible. And if you look at this shot up, now this was about 230%. I don't think that this is going to happen again. This 260% off the lows. I don't think it's going to repeat because we had a narrative here. We had some extra reason to push it up, which was that flare airdrop. But if we go off of the wick lows that we're in right now, measuring near the cross as we are in this scenario, getting to $1 would only be 130% up. That's all it would be. And we know XRP can move up more dramatically. Look at off of this low right here up to this top. It was 215% right here. Up to these peaks, it was 170%. And for what reason? This was during the start of the SEC lawsuit, which we went even lower later. So I just want people to see that there's a technical element to this, and the next crown top we make could be underway, and it could have a lot to do with this cross. We have a technical cross here that we've seen in the past, and it's led to some noticeable moves in XRP. You could see right here. Wow. I mean, look at there. We have the cross of the 55 above the 200 on April 17th, moon mission. And when we finally crossed it to the downside was literally the start of a perpetual downtrend, which lasted all the way until the next positive cross. You can't make this shit up. Like, look at this. This was your selling climax all the way through your spring, which was the C19. And then when we had it cross right here, we led to a short-term uptrend. And effectively, if you go off the cross to the highs, it was a 750% gain over 200 days. Now, I'm not saying that will happen again. I'm calling for an 83-cent to $1 target this year. And when it happens, it doesn't really matter. Whether it happens in June, July, I don't care. There's a technical play here. And because of this project specifically being so suppressed and so disregarded, besides the community that surrounds it, once the other people in the space start to give this attention, that's when like, okay, it's making its way. And I'm going to move on from this, but I just wanted to share a couple of these ideas, and I wanted to show you this analysis. I thought it was pretty interesting. And this 200 was back tested right here a couple of times before it went up. And if we were to do the same thing, that would be like us testing at like 42 cents again. Again, that would be another leg lower in the structure. But as long as we're holding this 200 after we've had this cross, we've seen the cross maintain itself for very long periods of time. And the last iteration of this positive cross was about 1,000 days ago. So I hope this 2-day analysis is helpful. I'm not saying we're going to repeat the exact same move as we did over here, because again, this was narrative driven and this was in a more bullish cycle. But ultimately the setup here is prime, and we do have higher lows and we do have higher highs technically. I would say this would become problematic if ETH starts closing below 35 cents. That would be like as problematic as Bitcoin starting to close below 25K. So just keep those numbers in mind. It's very similar. Now for upside, it's the same. That's why I didn't even want to talk about it today. We need 60 cents on macro closes. 54 cents is your first target, then 60 cents, and then I anticipate, boom, straight to 80. Now we're going to get into Moon River. I have no idea what this is. I've never looked at this project before. Ooh, okay. One step at a time. For one, it did not trade before the C19 crash. So that's one thing I don't like, is it doesn't have data from the past bull run of 2017 to 2018, and it doesn't have data trading before the C19 crash. It was brought to the market after the start of C19, which is where the Fed was printing money to oblivion. And this just went up initially because of everything else going up. Now it's been in price discovery to the downside. This is not good. Very, very speculative. So I'm going to be pulling a bearish fib off of that swing low to the current all-time high. And we have been trading below. Oof, okay. This is not good. Okay. So this is how I would pull this fib from this level right here up to the swing, to the all-time high. When we broke below that level after this little lower high was when we went into a deeper, more dramatic correction right into this blue line, which is the 1618. You could see that it was actually respecting this 1618 or the golden ratio for about 140 days. Then it started breaking below it, and now it's been treating it as a resistance. That's really not good. So this thing is still in price discovery to the downside. It could go to zero. Like this could keep slipping more and more and more. So if it can't even be getting up into, okay, anyways, I'm going to delete this now and I'm just going to show you what it looks like on a bullish fib. Yeah, we haven't even made it to the 236, whilst you can't call automatic rally on a project till it gets to the 382. And the reason it's not experiencing any of this momentum to the upside is because when it was launched at a time where it has nothing to go off of. It only went up because everything else went up. This thing lost 98% of its value, and it's trading within a couple percent of its lows still, whilst Bitcoin is up right between the 382 and the 0.5 fib. Not good. This is not good. Okay, I wouldn't touch this thing. This is speculative to an extent that's makes my stomach hurt. And I think $5 is in the cards as early as potentially July of this month into August. And I think that this is possible to go down to $2 maybe by September, October, maybe even $1, which would be like a full 99% loss on this project from top. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this thing. This has no value. Okay, let's move on. We're going to track. This is Origin Trail. Okay, so now what's very different about this project is we have chart data going all the way back to 2019. This was your C19 crash, and you can see it's actually held higher lows for a while now with a horizontal trading range for 1,000 days. This looks much better. This has chart history that makes me feel a little less awkward. Now, I also like how we are much higher than the C19 dump. You could see this right here. This level to this level is where you had this W breakout. But if you go to around 0.006 cents to where we're trading at the lows of the recent selling climax, that's a 2,000% gain. So anyone who bought the last bear cycle of this project is up handsomely. That's beautiful. You look at the Litecoin chart, on the other hand, just prove a point. This is the C19 lows of Litecoin, and it's trading up 100% from those lows. That's dog shit. Like, look at Bitcoin for comparison. And Bitcoin's the slowest, most it's like well, if I take off the same level and show you where Bitcoin's trading today, that's up 300%. That's 3x off of the low range of Litecoin comparatively. So Track anyways is showing me a much different story than the last chart I was just looking at, just to help you guys see how I'm analyzing this holistically. So I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to actually pull a bearish fib. Now this is showing me something that I was gonna expect anyways, which is probably a back test eventually of that level and this backup phase. So after your spring, you tend to have an SOS. The SOS breaks your prior structure high with a little bit of a back test before continuation up. And then you have SOSs and LPSs along the way to your buying climax. This right there is not the cleanest backup phase, but when we have the real sell-off on some of these projects, that's where you tend to go back to if you have enough chart data. So the fact that this has lost 96% of its value from the top, it's very similar to most altcoins. If we get a spring, that's where I would anticipate it to go, somewhere around 0.08 cents, or we could just put a horizontal line right here and save this concept right around here to here. Let's just call it a penny, or 10 cents, excuse me. Now I'm going to delete this and I'm going to show you what we're working with for the potential automatic rally, or if we've already made our automatic rally. Okay, so I have from this local, the current all-time high to this swing low. And we've made it above the 382, but just on a couple wicks, and we're back down at the 236. Ideally, you want to have 2-day, 3-day closures above the 382, and then a swipe into the 0.5, but I don't like this right here. I don't like that March 18th swipe and big rejection. That's very automatic rally-like, and because it's just some random altcoin, probably in the couple hundredths of market cap, that's the type of ugly automatic rally they tend to have. Just weird shit like that, like one single day, and then rejected, and then to Hades. It's like, remember what I was telling people about Hex, and we called that Hex target beautifully, right? After a pretty noticeable sell-off. Just keep this in mind. It happens in a single day, this final upside project stuff, the final upside target. So getting back to track, yeah, holding the 236 is very crucial. It would be ideal, and getting daily closes, 2-day closes above the 382 would be even better. And I would anticipate you're probably not going to go much higher than 77 to 92 cents. And 92 cents is a clear upside target level. Look at that right there. You have this distribution top with many, many touch points at 93 cents. And then you have the hold before breakdown back into the horizontal trading range. This would be your blow off top. And then one last touch on 93 cents before your selling climax. And that's a pretty dramatic sell-off. From right there, it's about 85%. And from the all-time high, it's a 96% correction. This 93 cent is everything. And that's making me think now, because 93 comes back to Saturn. We could be getting some Saturn vibes in this. I can't see the logo, but it does look like a circle. And whenever you get those logos, that's the rings of Saturn. But the green color is not normal, not typical. Although I would say esoterically, you would associate green with Saturn, coming back to Geb with the H in Egyptian mythology, Geb being the land beneath Nut or Nuit, which is the firmament dome, the holder of the stars in the heaven of heavens. So the green is the land. Could be another esoteric way of looking at it. But let's just see, because I'm interested, track. We got the 42 connected, obviously, to Saturn. And it's called the Origin Trail, right? I hope I'm typing. Okay, correct. It's funny because what's the origin, right? It's Genesis. We got that 69 there. We talked about that a lot today. Saturn, you have that 69 as well. That 42, like track gives you that 42, but nothing in the same cipher. So nothing that I could pick up on right away. Yeah, nothing I could pick up on right away, and I don't have the time to decode this, but definitely interesting and a decent looking chart. And it had a pretty dramatic sell-off, so I would confirm that this is probably your double touch selling climax, and it probably could have a spring down to less than 10 cents. Something like this, where maybe we pop up one last time to like 75 cents, finish off the automatic rally, and once you start closing below the 236 on the downside, double bottom, which turns into a spring that's very short-lived. Like we're talking about just a couple weeks. And that would be your spring action followed by your SOS, which is a break above automatic rally. Then you have a backup phase. Then you have a new bull run. And this is something that could be a candidate for another bull run. I'm not entirely sure exactly, but if it's holding these highs after the C19 crash, comparatively, it's not bad. Not nearly as bad as some of the other things I've seen. So interesting chart. Going to injective. Oh, amazing. Okay, so I had fibs pulled on this in the past, down from this swing low up to the swing high. So it's a bearish fib pulled in reverse. Clean break into your selling climax with a perfect back test of the 1618. So I love this. This is done. This is your automatic rally, guys. You see the way it looks? Beautiful. Bada bing, bada boom. Get the fuck out. All right, injective. It's been injected, that's for sure. The logo is really, really interesting. Let me check out this logo really quickly. It almost looks like a like a volleyball, but it has like this kind of like broken swastika kind of. I don't like calling it the swastika, but that's what most people associate it with. It has nothing to do with Nazis or anything. It's just a symbol of it's an ancient symbol. Anywho, I don't have time to get into that now, but this is the automatic rally. This is toasted. Yeah, bearish divergence. Weekly RSI getting into 80, plus a rejection, plus we're trading below the 618. This is done. Beautiful. So I love when I see automatic rallies because it proves the thesis, like these coins do them. And let's see the sell-off on this. 96%. Okay, so we have a 95% sell-off. That's very normal. This automatic rally is gorgeous. You see, look at the 382 and pay attention to my analysis. We get up to the 382, struggling a little bit. We had this deeper correction into March 10th, just like Bitcoin, got above the 382 again with a higher high. So we have here high, higher high, third higher high. After this bear trap, and then look at the clean back test of the 382 before just rocketing straight into the golden pocket. That's classic. And then you see this is your, if you really want to zoom in and do doing a more micro analysis, you're going to pull your fibs here and boom, you see we made it into the golden pocket after this pullback. This is exactly how it likes to end. So first thing is when you see closures below $6 and is that 666? Okay, when you start to see closures that are below the April 24th closure, about $6.60, then you would start to see it come down to the 0.5. It'll dance around the 0.5, maybe come up one more time, and then boom, keel over again. When it starts breaking the 0.5, that's when you anticipate a test of the 236. So let's look at the bi-weekly chart, and you can see how this looks like a straight up automatic rally. It's gorgeous. All right, well, there you go. If anyone wants to know what automatic rallies look like in a very clean and volatile, kind of essence, injective protocol. Best way to share it, like best way to show it. Very cool that it did this. Now, would I invest in this in the future? Absolutely not. It doesn't have enough chart history. No trading before the C19 event, so pretty much just went up because it was in the right place at the right time. Like, look, it was introduced sometime around November. That was when Bitcoin was breaking into new all-time highs. It broke 20,000 right there into November, December of 2020. I mean, it topped out in April. At the same time, all the other altcoins topped out and then went on a bear market since. So just because it does this automatic rally thing doesn't mean that I'm looking to invest in it. I want people to really, really see where I stand on all this stuff. I'm super consistent, but I called that we will have automatic rallies in this market. They're going to happen in isolation. And ultimately when Bitcoin and ETH pull up to their final targets, which ETH has effectively pretty much hit it. ETH did the same move last cycle, and I've been very open about that, telling everyone how. If you go to this cycle of 2019, we saw this move right here. We topped out at the 0.5 fib. I know you can't see it, but you see 0.5 right there. We topped out right there at the 0.5 fib on the automatic rally. Now, if we do this cycle and pull, we're going to see the same thing. We hit the 0.5 fib, even slightly extended above it. So technically we have hit the level. But now if we take the technicals that we're looking at today, well, there is an opportunity for us to go a little bit higher, about 2,300. We're splitting hairs though. That's like what, like what are we really, we're waiting for an extra fucking 8%. It's done, the automatic rally. It's done. Like, it's undeniable at this point. Ethereum hit its automatic rally target. Bitcoin still has room. XRP is not in the automatic rally. So you can see how these things sort of happen in isolation. But right here, Injective is a pure example of a perfect kind of crypto style automatic rally. Hex, perfect example of a crypto style automatic rally. Look at there, right into the 0.5 fib, blow off top, right below the golden pocket. That's beautiful. That's how it goes. So awesome. Injective, I'd assume it's probably coming back into $1 in the fall time. Now let's look at Tezos. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but the logo is super interesting. It's like the Saturn logo with something else going on. Crazy. Okay, oh my God. Wait, what am I? No way. Wow, this is horrible. Okay, so this is your C19 crash, your C19 scam. We are trading below that right now. So this is not good. This is an example of bad. I mean, really decent bull run, I guess, if you got in at the absolute selling climax, but fuck. Since top, this thing has lost 92% of its value, but it's trading below the C19 level. Okay, so this is dog shit. I wouldn't touch this. And it never went into price discovery on the upside in this last cycle either. Like, it couldn't break those highs. And a very similar thing, this was just lucky back then. It launched at the time that it did. It got to ride in the coattails of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alt season of 2017 into 2018. But since, like, I mean, damn, if you even pull off of this top, it lost a pretty dramatic amount, 95, 96%. That's what we anticipate. But it only made a lower high. Wow. But this is really what I don't like, is how it's trading below the March 2020 lows, digging much deeper. These are lows of October 2019. This is the lows of the C19 scam. We went even lower to 69 cents. Yeah, what do we say about shit like this, It's dog shit. It's absolute dog shit. Let's delete that. Let's delete that. We have an all-time fib now. I had this white line drawn for a reason. I wonder when I drew it, because the last time I reviewed this coin must have been a very long time ago, maybe like Red Pill Podcast 70 something. And we're at Red Pill Podcast number 110 now. So that was like 30 weeks ago. I was trading somewhere around here and I drew this line. It's pretty wild that we got there. I haven't looked at this chart since. Wow. Yeah. So we did backtest to 236, which is horrendous. Horrendous. Like, it's trading as low as it was back in 2019, and it's 2023. That would be like Bitcoin trading at $4,000, but it's trading at almost 30 right now. Yeah, this is another thing. I wouldn't touch this. This is not good. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. Let me look at the local fib, give you guys somewhat of a target to consider, but other than that, I don't even think it's gonna do too. Yeah, so it's come up into the 236, rejected off of it. It's trading in the middle. We won above 382 for an automatic rally, and I really do not think that this thing can make it to $3. I don't. It's very unlikely based on the energy of this type of trading. That's one thing to consider. This right here, the fact that we were getting multiple rejections on the outside of this as a resistance. I guess technically we have some sort of back test between these two ranges right there. You could call that March 10th back test. But damn, I mean, this can continue to be a support and still enter lower lows. So what does that help? Yeah, I mean, maybe it could hit $2 if Bitcoin makes it up to about 40,000, but I don't know if it has the juice for that either. So Yeah. Okay. Final words of wisdom. And I don't have the full chart on Shiba Inu. And I'm well aware that even though Shiba is a meme coin, it did really well. And it's still currently in the top 15 market cap out of all cryptos, which is a sign, that we're still in a very unsophisticated, retail driven alt market, where the alt market is mostly retail, just playing around with the stuff for fun. And what's recently happened with Pepe Coin, which I didn't even know about until I got interviewed last week, it's making me think of what was going on back when SHIB was very popular. So Shiba Inu really moved up into about April, May of 2021. And then Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live and was shilling Dogecoin and even said something about Shiba Inu. And then that was when we saw a huge rejection coming in for the whole market. That was effectively the end of alt season, was when Elon Musk was becoming like the spokesperson on Twitter of, being the guy to push the crypto market. And of course, this is exoteric. This is necessarily the truth, but it plays into how retail is involved in this and the manipulation of sentiment through greed, right? And just want to revisit that time because I feel like we're in a very similar scenario with Pepe Coin, where we have this coin being introduced at this exact time, and I believe it's for a reason, and it's to essentially have one more move to the upside before the entire market caves over again. And now, could this Pepe Coin thing keep going? Sure, why not? I get it. Like, it's part of those final moment distractions to get, people to make speculative plays. But people have to remember that a lot more people lost money on Shiba Inu than they made money, even though this coin went up hundreds of thousands of percent, if not millions of percent. So now that it's being listed on bigger, regarding Pepe, now that it's being listed on these bigger exchanges such as Binance, and it'll continue, that was exactly when SHIB started to roll over too. Like, once it was being introduced to these bigger exchanges, it had its moment initially in the meme coin madness, but it's all by design, guys. So I'm not telling people what to invest in and what not to invest in. I just share what I would invest in or what I wouldn't invest in. And a lot of the shit that I shared on Shiba Inu years ago, like at least a year and a half ago, came true. I told people straight up that we should anticipate 90+% corrections in this thing. Well, we got a 91% sell-off. And thus far, it's still trading below the 236, so this thing doesn't look that good. It has yet to make it above the 382. It has yet to trade into this automatic rally territory. It's still effectively down 90% from where it was, but at the time it was getting so much juice because everyone was talking about it. It was a household name. That worries me. And that's the same thing that's happening right now with Pepe. And I believe we're just on the precipice of a similar thing happening. I can't do any analysis on Pepe coin because there's no chart history. I'm not going to decode it. It's a waste of my time. The same bullshit that was happening in 2021 during the end of the alt season, I feel the same essence is coming back around now. So just words of wisdom to stay safe. Be very careful at this time speculating. This is not the time, actually. I have been telling most of my clients, most of the people that book calls with me, that if you're trying to jump in the market now, really better wait till September, October. If you're going to put fresh money in the market, that'd be much smarter. If you're somebody that took the advices of getting in near the selling climax and effectively 1 year after Bitcoin hits an all-time high, which is analysis that I've shared for over a year and a half, and the idea of the lunar cycle and solar cycle, getting in during the lunar cycle, which is what I did. I practice what I preach. I got into a bunch of altcoin positions early. So I'm just reminding people. I get right now people might have some fresh money and they're going to want to start throwing it into the meme coin market. And if you want to, no one's stopping you. Have fun in the gambling casino. But if this coin rolls over and starts losing a lot of value, well, that's on you. Excuse me. So I just want to share that because I feel like it's effective right now for us to be cautious. We're moments away from potentially seeing the next leg up for the crypto market. We're starting to see this meme coin stuff gain traction. I just feel like it's very similar to the 2021 end of the 2021 cycle. So please be safe. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Red Pill Podcast 110. I wanted to give you guys as much as possible today regarding the month of June and this critical May 17th date that's coming up very soon. And I would love to know some of your thoughts in the Discord, so feel free to share any decodes in the proper text channels titled Gematria, or any of your TA information in the TA and charts text chat. I would love to hear what you guys are finding. And feel free to submit the altcoin that you want me to review in the comments of this Red Pill podcast on Patreon. The same thing if you were trying to get access to our Discord server, you want to message me directly here on Patreon with your Discord user name and the last 4 digits, and I will reply back to you with an invite. Looking forward to chatting with you more in the Discord, and I'm going to be signing off here. Red Pill Podcast 110. Looking forward to 111, the 111 next week. Much love.